What up, sales fam? Welcome back to another video. We have a lot to tell you guys about.
There's a lot.
But we'll give you a little sneak peek of our new car. What up, sales fam?
So here's the deets. So we had the accident. It took place, I believe it was mid-July, and we were coming from a friend's house. They just moved in, and we were celebrating for them. No alcohol. Just put that out there. There was no alcohol. But we were coming from a friend's house, and we were coming down a highway, and then all of a sudden there was a bend. I was driving. We hit the bend, and then for some reason the tires or the wheels of the Honda locked up on us. From that point, the car spun out of control. Maybe I think it was twice before I was able to guide it to the guardrail. We hit the guardrail twice. Once was in the back, also on the driver's side, and then the other time when I was able to get around after the first turn, we hit the front driver's side.
The front of the.
And that's when the car came to a stop. It was very
Traumatic.
I'd say very traumatic.
I mean, I don't know what was going. I mean, he could say what was going on in his mind, but in my mind, I was freaking out. I was like, because at first I told Chris, I was like, babe, what's going on? I think I just said babe, what's going on? What's happening? And then he said that the wheels had locked up. And I think the only thing I said was, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. The whole time. That's the only thing that could come out of my mouth. But honestly, I thought we were going to die.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought, because the car, we had no control over the car.
Yeah.
And I know Chris was just trying to make sure that I was okay, but also I'm sure that was a lot for you.
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, I definitely went straight into protector mode. I didn't want her to get hurt, so the idea is that I wanted to make sure that if there was any damage, it would take place on my side the most, that I would bear the brunt of it, so that way she'd be all right. And it actually ended up being that way. I mean, if you guys see the pictures, it looks, I mean, her side looks unscathed other than a bunch of dirt, but my side got pretty messed up. I mean, the airbags tried to deploy. They didn't. My head smacked against the window. There was a loud sound that went off in my brain. It was pretty vivid. Just like if somebody, if you got smacked in the head if you ever got hit in the head with a balloon. I don't know why you would get hit in the head with a balloon, but maybe it's a water balloon fight or something. I don't know. But it was just a loud pop. And it knocked out my hearing for a little bit.
My head hit. I just remember, I think it was on my
her
right.
head hit the
No,
dash.
it was on my left side, because I was wondering why the left side of my head got hit.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I had turned my head, and then my head went forward and hit the dash. But it was just so, everything happened within a matter of maybe a minute.
Yeah, it was a minute.
It was very...
It was the longest minute of your life.
Yeah, it was the longest minute of our life, but honestly, the accident wasn't very long. And I'm glad that we don't remember it vividly.
I remember
because I don't remember how that went about, how my head got to that point. I just remember us spinning out, me freaking out, and you just trying to make sure that the car stayed secure. I will say Chris was very calm considering everything that was happening.
Yeah. Because in that moment you realize when something bad's happening, freaking out's not going to do anything. Granted, she was freaking out. But for me, it wouldn't have been good for me to freak out because of the situation. And I couldn't really... It's weird. In the moment, I was focusing on her to be all right, but it's I wasn't focusing on her. I was trying to focus on just getting the car to stop. To not, do anything. And one of the things that people kept asking was well, why, was the brakes working? Were you able to brake? Well, one of the things that was weird, when I tried to hit the brakes, it didn't work. The car was coasting. And it was very weird when the car was coasting. It didn't stop until we hit the guardrail in the front. So even after that, it was just no good. But yeah, it's something that was very unexpected, considering that, you know, Jasmine's Honda was not old. I mean, it was kind of old, but it's 2010. I mean, people have had the cars longer than 10 years.
The people before me that had the car were older and they didn't really drive the car. I think there was like 30,000 miles in the car when I got it. So, and I got it when it was relatively new. Like the car, I mean, now the car's old, but like when I got it, it was only a couple of years old. So it was a pretty well like taken care of car. I always got, you know, maintenance done on it and everything. I will say the one thing that like I kind of stumped me, and I know it's not my fault per se, but it's like we were taking the car on a trip to Williamsburg, and my dad had actually mentioned that the car was driving weird. And when he said that, I didn't really think anything of it because I didn't feel like the car was driving weird, but I should have gotten the car checked. Like, because after he had said that, I should have probably taken that more seriously. And I'm just thankful that we're here to tell this testimony and say everything that happened. But after the whole accident, luckily, a police officer actually saw us when the accident happened. I mean, I think in a matter of like a couple minutes he came by.
It was like a couple minutes and he rolled up. There was also people that drove next to us to make sure we were all right too. But yeah, I mean, the officer, he said that he was coming down the road right behind us when it happened and he saw everything. And so he literally just came over and was like, "Hey, you guys all right?" And his name was Chris too, so shout out to Officer
really?
Chris.
I didn't know that. I was so like, I was just like, okay, gotta get the insurance stuff. We gotta call Geico. We gotta like. I was
trying to do all that.
And then I was also really shaken up by it and trying to pray and cry at the same time and not freak out because I was like, I need to stay calm.
Yeah, I was just talking to the officer the whole time. It was just like, he was just making sure that we were all right, everything was good, and he was like, "Oh, well, do you guys need ambulance? You need fire, you know, rescue, all that stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to call." He was like, "Yeah, because I can't leave you guys here by yourselves." He was like, "So I'll call him until we get you guys checked out." And he was very, very calm, very like, you know, he was letting off a couple jokes, and that also made
Try
it
to ease the situation,
common relief. But you know, Officer Chris, I mean, he was amazing. I mean, he definitely, I felt like he was definitely like a guardian angel at that particular time.
I mean, angels, like, that's something that I felt too. Like, angels were definitely watching over us. Like, I mean, of course, God was watching over us, but he definitely sent his angels.
He sent him,
because, like, the way that the accident happened, like, it could have been so much worse. Like, we could have hit a
worse.
car. Like, luckily, it was just us that was in the accident.
Yeah.
We were in the very left lane.
Which is crazy, because that road's normally busy.
Yeah, and, it could have just turned out so many, like, the car could have flipped. Like, it just could have, a lot of worse things could have happened. It could have taken forever for the police to get there. And the medics checked us in like, I mean, he called the medics in like 2 seconds they were there.
It was 2 seconds.
So, you know, it was definitely, God was definitely watching over us through everything, even though it was not something I would wish on anybody. But, you know, I could see God's hand and God's work in all of that. And is there anything else about the accident you want to talk about? Or?
No, I mean, I think we had, I would say like I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but like we had a few people, it wasn't just the officer, I mean, we had like a few people even after the officer left, just asking and just making sure that we're all right. Like there was people coming in that were going the opposite direction who pulled over to the side and said, "Hey, are you guys all right?" We had like maybe like 3 or 4 people that did that. And I just, you know, we can't thank them right now, but we did thank them in the moment. But, you know, I would say thank you to those who did. If you did watch this, if you do remember that.
Because most people, when you see an accident, you kind of just see it and then you keep moving on. But the fact that people actually stopped and, you know,
made sure we were all right.
That definitely goes a long way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if there's anything I would say is, it's like, you know, one of the things that I do, and after the situation, I'm actually happy that I do it. But one of the things, and even Jasmine, I think she started to do it because I started to do it.
Yeah, because of you.
But whenever we drive past someone who is either just being stopped by the police, or you see an ambulance that's zooming or zipping through a light or anything, you know, I just reach my hands out and I just pray over them. I pray over the ambulance, pray over the fire personnel. I pray over police officers and whoever they're stopping by, because you don't know the situation. You don't know what's going on. If you can't stop and say, hey, is everything all right? The best thing you can do is just say a prayer. I mean, it takes like 2 seconds. It doesn't have to be this big, you know, you don't have to do any, you know, Hail Marys or anything like that. But like just, you know, just saying a quick prayer and saying, you know, God, you know, watch over them, protect them, Lord God. Pray the situation will work out for them, whatever it is, that everybody be able to go peacefully and get home safely. And that's it. I mean, and I just thank God for that situation, because of the fact that, you know, it made me realize, like, in that moment, that people do care. Because I've been saying prayers for people driving past for the longest time, and you never know the outcome. You never know what happens or anything unless you see it on the news. But I would like to say that this situation was confirmation that people care. People see you, they do know that if you're in a situation, that they actually do care. So that's one of the things. I'm not going to say it all over again, but that's one of the things I would say. Like, you may think no one cares, but people care. We care. So that's all I gotta say for it. But scary situation, but it turned out really in our favor. God definitely turned around in our favor. Like right now, we're in our brand new Subaru Outback, which it's just amazing. So Jasmine's gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I want to talk about. So we had to get a rental car because my car turned out that it was totaled. Which R.I.P. Shirley, that was her name. My 2010 Honda Civic, gray Honda Civic. You know, I had her when I first started going to college, so she was definitely like, she was my pride and joy, man. She was my car, like that. My dad helped me get her, so it was kind of sad seeing her go. I had to kind of mourn that loss of her being gone, and so I just was like, okay, well, the next thing is we have to get a rental car. So we talked to our insurance company. We were able to get a rental car. And we were just kind of playing the waiting game because, you know, at that time when we first were getting the rental car, we didn't know if the car was totaled. They kind of told us, like, yeah, your car's probably going to be totaled. But we didn't know. Then we got word back that it was totaled. And basically they were going to just they were just basically going to pay for the car and just give us whatever the car was valued at. And then I'm assuming that they probably either fixed the car up and sold it themselves or are going to use the parts and sell the parts. So we were kind of just waiting, and I kept like nudging Chris, like, okay, are they gonna tell us yet? Because it's taking a little while. And we had discussed, Chris has been talking about wanting to get a Subaru Outback for a while now, because, you know, both of us, both of us have, you know, I had a car, Chris currently has a car too. So we, you know, thought the best thing for us to do was to get a nice like SUV truck type of car that's bigger. You know, when we go traveling, we have more space. When we eventually have kids, we have more room for them. So it just made sense for us to do that. So we had already discussed that. So when this whole thing happened, we were like, well, we might as well just go ahead and just try to get this car. And so the one thing that we had discussed was the down payment amount that we wanted to have for the car. So we had already discussed what the down payment amount was together, and then he actually received a phone call back from the insurance company, and the amount that they gave us was actually slightly above the amount that we said that we wanted to put down on the car. So it was just like, it was like God had heard us, and it wasn't even something that I had necessarily prayed for. I think Chris maybe had prayed for it, but I was just asking God, like, just to work it out in our favor. And it was he definitely worked it out way more than I could have ever imagined. So we didn't even really have to pay, like, the down payment was pretty much covered.
Yeah, down payment was covered.
And, you know, for the car, like, that was something that I was like, well, now we're going to have to dip into our, you know, our house savings, because we, you know, eventually want to move out of our apartment and get a home. But luckily we didn't have to do that. Like, and it really just showed me, like, through this whole situation, like, God has definitely been watching us and looking out for us in our best interest. Like, he was there the entire time. Everything was going on, and it just makes me wonder, like, oh, was this supposed to happen to get us to have this car? Because me, like, I'm the type of person, I want everything in line a certain way before I do something. And so this was kind of like, Yeah, it does not work that way. I mean, when we got married, it didn't work that way. Like, we, you know, a lot of people probably were looking at us like, you guys are going to try to do all this stuff in 7 months. And it worked out because now, you know.
6 months.
It was a little over 6.
It was 6 months.
Okay, he said it's 6 months. All right, I'll let him have that. But, like, we did all of that, and I didn't know if it was going to work out. But luckily, we did get married in that amount of time because literally not too long after we got married and went on our honeymoon and everything, then we were dealing with this whole pandemic. And we would have had to deal with pandemic issues and all that stuff if we had not did that.
I will say, we're going to do a separate video on that later because I think that's also a nice... Especially, this is like this is our first video doing something like this. We're talking about a testimony because I mean we have a few, but there's one specifically before we got married that I think it's going to be a good video. We talk about the whole process of our engagement, you know, what we went through with that, just starting out, just the day of the engagement, but. We'll talk about that in a separate video.
Yeah, I forgot. I honestly forgot. But I suppress things.
Oh my God.
I mean, okay, I don't suppress them, but you try to remember the good things in life and not the negative things. But I think that this just goes to show that there are a lot of negative things that could happen in life, but God can turn them around for your good.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was something that, like, I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, maybe we should do a testimony. And then he mentioned it, and I was like, okay, well, that's confirmation that we should do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's our testimony. We hope that it encourages you. Anybody that's like dealing with stuff right now, we know that this world is just honestly so crazy, and it's hard to see the good in all of the bad.
Yeah.
But this just goes to show that like there is good. Like God is watching out for us.
Yeah.
And now the fun part. We're gonna kind of give you guys we kind of did a little teaser at the beginning of this, but we're gonna give you like a good old look into the inside and outside of our car. So we're gonna go ahead and cut to that. Thank you guys for watching this video. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys in our next one. Deuces.